Stand with QB, the world's leading compact seated elliptical. QB gives you active sitting, letting you burn calories and keep moving in an easy and low-impact way, all while you work, read, or watch TV. QB was named a top 10 gift by Time Magazine and has been featured all over the world. It's whisper quiet while it works your abs and core, hip flexors, glutes, quads, hamstrings, and calves.
QB is a lifesaver for me.
Here's your answer to your problem.
I feel young again.
Join the hundreds of thousands of people moving more with QB. Call to find out how to get your QB with free shipping and a 30-day completely risk-free trial. You'll also get this QB workout mat free. Now keep fit while you sit with QB.
To order, call 800-289-5820. That's 800-289-5820. Call now.
Do you have an old car, truck, or van taking up space in your home? You can call the number below today and donate it to the United Breast Cancer Foundation to help save a life. Our qualified personnel will go to your home to pick it up completely free of charge. Donating your old truck or SUV helps pay for the programs available to women affected by breast cancer who need your help. Please help us to help others. Call now.
Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Tonight, new developments and salacious new allegations against Matt Gaetz. That is the embattled Florida Republican battles sex trafficking. We're going to show you what the kids traveling for weeks to get here are facing both on the trip and once they arrive in the States. Also, we'll show you exactly when the Republican Party made a hard right turn and left many in the party behind and explain how that's playing out in our politics right now. But we start in Minneapolis, Minnesota, as week 2 of the Derek Chauvin trial has just wrapped up.
The activities of the law enforcement officers resulted in Mr. Floyd's death, and that specifically those activities were the subdual, the restraint, and the neck compression.
Dr. Lindsay Thomas, a veteran forensic pathologist and medical examiner, she is one of the many experts over the past 2 days who have said that Derek Chauvin's knee on George Floyd's neck, it caused his death. Now, Dr. Thomas also said Floyd's death was not caused by a pre-existing heart condition or a drug overdose.
There was nothing sudden about his death, so that's what I would have expected if it was a cardiac arrhythmia or abnormal beating of the heart. Typically those are someone really falls over pretty quickly, and this was not that. Likewise, it was not the type of death that has been reported in fentanyl overdose, for example, where someone becomes very sleepy and then just sort of gradually, calmly, peacefully stops breathing. This was not that kind of a death.
Then the medical examiner who performed the autopsy on Floyd took the stand. He also spoke about the cause of death.
The other significant conditions are things that played a role in the death but didn't directly cause the death. So, for example, Mr. Floyd's use of fentanyl did not cause the subdual or neck restraint. His heart disease did not cause the subdual or the neck restraint.
Dr. Baker also spoke about the condition of Floyd's heart, coming to this conclusion after noting Floyd suffered from 2 different types of heart disease.
So he has a heart that already needs more oxygen than a normal heart by virtue of its size, and it's limited in its ability to step up to provide more oxygen when there's demand because of the narrowing of his coronary arteries. Now, in the context of an altercation with other people that involves things like physical restraint, that involves things like being held to the ground, that involves things like the pain that you would incur from having your cheek up against the asphalt, an abrasion on your shoulder, those events are going to cause stress hormones to pour out into your body, specifically things like adrenaline. And what that adrenaline is going to do is it's going to ask your heart to beat faster. It's going to ask your body for more oxygen so that you can get through that altercation. And in my opinion, the law enforcement subdual restraint and the neck compression was just more than Mr. Floyd could take.
Doctors started taking the stand yesterday, and that was a new phase in the trial as the first week and a half really featured more focus on witnesses and police officers. World-renowned pathologist Dr. Martin Tobin yesterday testified, and he also said fentanyl was not the cause of death, and that is considered pivotal here as fentanyl and methamphetamines were in Floyd's system when he died. The defense, they are trying to prove that it was a combination of the drugs and the heart disease that in fact killed Floyd, but so far, every expert who has taken the stand disagrees with that, including Dr. Tobin.
I think you explained to us that if somebody is suffering from a fentanyl overdose, you would see a depression in the respiratory system.
Yes.
And depression means some reduction in the rate or ability to breathe.
Correct.
Did you see any depression in Mr. Floyd's ability to breathe whatsoever before he went unconscious?
No, absolutely not. He was normal respiratory rate.
Any evidence then that any fentanyl in his system depressed his breathing in any way whatsoever?
No, and that's further borne out in the carbon dioxide.
Dr. Tobin, he also did something that was riveting for the jury. That's according to reporters inside the courtroom. He explained what happened to George Floyd's neck, and in doing so, he asked jurors to play along to help make his point. And nearly all of them, according to the pool reporters, did as he asked.
Feel yourself on your own neck. And now, if you put your hand at the back of your neck, and you feel the bottom of your skull, and you put your whole palm of your hand around it. Sorry?
Members of the jury, the witnesses ask you to do certain things. You are not required to do anything that the witness instructs you to do, but feel free to do it if you wish.
So, as I'm putting my hand here at the back of my neck, and I'm feeling the tip of my skull, and then I'm bringing down my hand, I'm feeling an extremely thick ligament, and that's called the nuchal ligament. On the right-hand side, you can see now the orientation of Mr. Floyd has changed, and also you can see the position of Officer Chauvin's knee has changed because it's come down below the yellow diagonal, and in this position there's going to be far greater compression of the hypopharynx in this region here compared with what you were seeing on the left side.
For what it's worth, almost every juror did that demonstration as was described by the doctor. A forensic medical expert who we heard from yesterday also said that lack of oxygen is what killed Floyd.
Mr. Floyd died from positional asphyxia, which is a fancy way of saying he died because he had no oxygen left in his body. When the body is deprived of oxygen, and in this case from his chest, pressure on his chest and back, he gradually succumbed to lower and lower levels of oxygen until it was gone and he died.
Of course, the pressure on his chest and back that Dr. Smock was referencing was caused by Chauvin pinning Floyd against the pavement, even though he's handcuffed for more than 9 minutes. Now, before we heard from all of those doctors, several police officers took the stand, and every single one of them said what Chauvin did was against police procedure and policy. That includes the chief of the Minneapolis PD. He, the same man who fired Derek Chauvin from the force in the wake of Floyd's death.
To continue to apply that level of force to a person proned out, handcuffed behind their back, that in no way, shape, or form is anything that is by policy, is not part of our training, and it is certainly not part of our ethics or our values.
The trial, it resumes Monday, and we will continue to follow it until we get a verdict. We'll keep you posted every step of the way. When we come back, though, our other top story and another edition of As the Gets Turns. New information out on the allegations of sex trafficking against the Florida congressman, and it doesn't look good for the ardent Trump supporter who's now facing serious legal troubles. After the break, a reporter from The Times who's been following the story. She'll join us to discuss.
Are you over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days? I have some important news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you understand the pros and cons of annuities. Call now for this free book on maximizing your income in retirement. Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers from leading financial firm J.D. Mellberg. That's right, free. This book reveals little-known truths about annuities in simple-to-understand terms. Grab a pen right now, because we're about to offer you this free book that unlocks the 5 little-known truths we believe baby boomers and seniors should know before buying an annuity, and it's free. Call 800-851-7261. As a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report. We researched numerous products and summarized rates and benefits of annuities, all from Silac Insurance Company. Call 800-851-7261. That's 800-851-7261.
When you fall and can't get help, you will lie on the floor for hours or days in constant, terrible anguish, which often results in a tragic outcome. But with Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast.
Don't worry, help is on the way.
With any of Life Alert's 3 emergency systems, help can be summoned immediately, whether at home,
I've fallen and I can't get up.
in the bathroom,
I've fallen in the shower.
or on the go.
Help! I'm in the park and I can't get up.
And batteries never need charging. Life Alert saves a life every 11 minutes.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-215-6582. That's 1-800-215-6582. Call now. 1-800-215-6582.
I didn't know some Medicare Advantage plans may pay for dental visits. Did you?
I didn't know some Medicare Advantage plans may pay for transportation to my doctor. Did you?
I didn't know some Medicare Advantage plans may pay to have my prescriptions delivered directly to my home. Did you?
These and more are important benefits some Medicare Advantage plans may give you. So if you're eligible for Medicare, call us right now because you may be eligible to enroll in a plan with amazing additional benefits. Some Medicare Advantage plans may pay for services like these: dental visits, vision coverage, hearing coverage, home delivery of drugs, even gym memberships. Some plans may include no copays for many services and 0 deductibles. Don't wait to find out if you're eligible to enroll in a plan that may include some of these wonderful benefits you deserve. Call us right now. The call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation. Make this free call now to learn if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan that may include additional benefits you want. Call us right now.
Matt Gaetz is hiring attorneys but losing congressional staffers as we learn more about the allegations against the Florida Republican. Gaetz, of course, remains under federal investigation to see if he paid women for sex, if he had a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old girl, and if he paid for her to travel with him, violating any other federal sex trafficking laws potentially. Gaetz' new high-profile New York attorneys are out with now a statement, quote, "Matt has always been a fighter for his constituents, a fighter for the country, and a fighter for the Constitution. He's going to fight back against the unfounded allegations against him." Now, the people who work for Gaetz, they're beginning to bail. Gaetz' legislative director, Devin Murphy, has quit right on the heels of his communication director also tendering resignation. The New York Times reporting that Murphy told associates he was interested in writing bills, not working at TMZ. But every day, the Gaetz story reads and feels more and more like a tabloid saga. Today, the Daily Beast out with the receipts, as they say. They've tracked one exchange between Gaetz and his friend and accused sex trafficker Joel Greenberg. Gaetz used the Venmo app to send Greenberg $900. The next day, Greenberg sends varying amounts to 3 women, adding up to, yes, that same $900. And the woman, who was 18 at the time, now works in the porn industry. Greenberg, who had been facing more than 30 federal felonies for sex trafficking and more, reportedly entered into a plea deal yesterday, and from the sound of his attorney, he's ready to dish the dirt on Gaetz.
And you're asking me to get into the mind of Matt Gaetz, right? I'm sure Matt Gaetz is not feeling very comfortable today.
Now, we also have the first Republican lawmaker calling for Gaetz to step down. Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois sent this tweet saying Gaetz needs to resign. In that tweet, Kinzinger links to the Daily Beast article about the Venmo payment and Greenberg that I told you about just a minute ago. You got other Republicans feel safe to come off the fence and denounce Gates, as they will not now be the first. Next week, they will get their chance, as Congress will be back in session after a 2-week recess, which means lawmakers will be asked about Mr. Gates over and over again. And so far, it has been crickets. House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy, obviously another Trump supporter, as is Gates, has been tepid at best.
Those are serious implications. If it comes out to be true, yes, we would remove him if that was the case. But right now, as Matt Gaetz says, it is not true, and we don't have any information. So let's get all the information.
And it's important to note when McCarthy says remove him, he only means booting him from the Judiciary Committee, not from Congress. I want to bring in our guest, a reporter who's been following the story very closely since the beginning. Katie Brenner, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, covers the Justice Department for the New York Times. And you know, Katie, there has been various attempts by Gates and supporters to say that this is conspiratorial, it's a shakedown, it's motivated either by people, trying to get money from the Gates family or for political objectives. But this began under the Barr DOJ, and the timing of that's significant, especially when we hear even claims about pardon shopping on the parts of Congressman Gates.
Yes, that's true. So, Mr. Gates has tried to imply that this is part of a plot to defraud his family. We know that there is an investigation going on to find out whether or not men who are in Florida who found out about this ongoing investigation did use the information to try to get money out of his family. But as we've said many times before, you can be both the victim of a crime and somebody who is suspected of perpetrating a crime. What Attorney General Barr approved last year was an investigation into the congressman, into whether or not he was involved in some sort of child sex trafficking scheme. At the heart of that allegation is the fact that under U.S. federal law, if you have sex with a minor and give that person literally anything of value, it could be a hotel room, it could be a 6-pack of beer, that is considered child sex trafficking. It is written extremely broadly because Republicans and Democrats, they don't agree on a lot, but they agree that child sex trafficking is bad. So they wanted to write it broadly to ensnare as many people as possible. And they gave it a mandatory 10-year minimum sentence. That is how seriously they take this issue. So that is what Mr. Gates faces at the very heart of this investigation. We know it's sprawled, but that is the main issue. Now, when Joel Greenberg's lawyer told the court yesterday that he was working toward a deal with prosecutors, it would be to give information about that issue and others.
Through your reporting, as you said, there's many different potential areas of concern for Gates. You mentioned a Bahamas trip. We talked about the Venmo payments as well. It seems, and even from the language that Gates has done to defend his quote-unquote lifestyle, or that he doesn't pay for it or whatever else, that there is real concern, about a multitude of possible places where he may have broken the law.
Sure, and if you look at what is known by, if you look at what we know is known by investigators, because of course the FBI has many more tools at their disposal that journalists don't have, including subpoena power. We know that they've already seized people's phones. They've gotten subpoenas for people's social media accounts. They kind of have a better sense of what's going on than we ever could. We know that there are women who have told reporters that they had sex with Mr. Gates and Mr. Greenberg, that they were paid afterwards. The investigation is going to focus on whether or not they can actually prove that those payments were for sexual activity and that there was a direct causal link. Now, of course, that is prostitution, and that's usually a state crime. It's not something that the FBI and the Justice Department prosecute. However, it spills over into the realm of human trafficking, even if the women are older than 17, if they're considered adults. It spills over into the realm of human trafficking, adult human trafficking, if the Justice Department finds that the women had the sexual activity with men under what they call force, fraud, or coercion.
Katie, I shared the story with our audience. We spoke to some folks who've covered Gaetz when he was in Florida. That revenge porn legislation, where with bipartisan support, universal support, the idea was that they were going to criminalize if somebody took a photograph that was shared, an intimate one, in a private context, and they took that and then distributed it. They were going to criminalize it. Matt Gaetz not only didn't support it, but he was vociferous. He said, these kind of things, this is my property. I should be able to do whatever I want. And there's a lot of other stories, including that Republicans apparently are offering up from his own caucus about the odd and unseemly behavior of Gaetz. I'm curious, is the radio silence in D.C. right now from Republicans because these charges have a whiff of believability, or is he as universally disliked as all the reporting seems to suggest?
So Matt Gaetz did not make a lot of allies here in Washington when he came to the Hill. His main concern seemed to be really working as an ally of President Trump, being a spokesman for Trump, for Trumpism, and protecting the president. It wasn't really to work across the aisle or to even work within the Republican caucus to try to get legislation done. So one of the reasons he hasn't gotten a lot of support is he did not build for himself tons of allegiances here on the Hill. To your point about the silence, I think a lot of Republicans were also waiting to see what happened yesterday at Joel Greenberg's status conference hearing. They wanted to hear what the prosecutor and what the defense attorney were going to say about Greenberg's next moves. If Greenberg had continued to plead not guilty, if it looked like his case was going to go to a trial and that he was going to staunchly defend himself and by extension, defend people like Matt Gaetz who might have been involved with him, that would have been one thing. But instead, what the lawyer said was that they were working toward a plea deal. It could still fall apart, but they said that by the middle of next month, they hope to have come to a deal where Gaetz would have cooperated in exchange for some sort of, like kinder sentencing or something for the crimes he is accused of committing. That is a very different thing. So I think Republicans also saw that, and they saw the potential for Greenberg to become a key witness in the investigation to Gaetz. As you pointed out earlier in the show, this is important because things like those Venmo payments the Daily Beast wrote about, which was a fantastic article. I hope all of your viewers read it. It's very, very good. That Daily Beast article does show money moving from Gaetz to Greenberg to women who are paid with whom presumably had sex with these men. Now, it is Greenberg who will be able to fill in the blanks as to the purpose of the payments and the structure of those payments and who was really in charge. That is concerning if you're a Matt Gaetz. That's the kind of witness that could be really damning. Of course, working in Gaetz's favor is the fact that Greenberg, if you look at these indictments, he's not been an honest broker. He violated bail. He's known to lie. He smeared a political rival with really vicious lies. So he's not exactly the most reliable narrator, and that probably works in Gaetz's defense.
And as we mentioned, Gaetz.
Is your AC busted, computer crashed, appliance broken? Then you need ARW, American Residential Warranty.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty. Home appliance repairs and replacement can cause stress and cost you over $3,000 per year. But starting at less than $1 a day, ARW has home warranty plans that cover household appliances, systems, and electronics. Parts and labor included. When I needed ARW, they were there. My oven actually took a dive in the middle of making a big dinner for family and friends, picked up the phone, called ARW, they repaired it, dinner saved, that easy.
My air conditioning broke on a Sunday. It was so hot. I called ARW and they came out and fixed it right away.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, even pools and spas, and so much more. All you have to do is call or go to getahomeplan.com. Plus, ARW's partner with Assurion to offer protection for all your new and used household electronics for just one low price.
I dropped my laptop and ARW replaced it with a brand new one, and all I paid was a small service fee.
All plans are fully customizable and come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call now and get a home security system valued at $1,250 free with any plan. And you can trust ARW to be there when you need it. Just call ARW and a licensed technician will be dispatched to your home. All covered repairs are guaranteed.
My refrigerator broke, and not only did ARW repair it fast, they even sent me a reimbursement check for all the food that went bad.
So come on, relax. Stop worrying about unexpected breakdowns and costly repairs. Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
Call 1-800-253-1237. Again, that's 1-800-253-1237 or log on to getahomeplan.com today.
This is a national healthcare alert from the 24/7 Diabetic Health Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one has diabetes, listen closely. Now, regardless of your age, if you have insurance, you may qualify to receive diabetic testing supplies with little to no out-of-pocket cost. Get free delivery, free information, and all the paperwork is handled by our accredited suppliers for free. Call the 24/7 Diabetic Health Hotline now for details. Toll free at this number. But wait, there's more. If you call right now, you could get a meter upgrade. In addition, we'll give you a free pair of diabetic socks as our special gift to you. Regardless of your age, if you suffer with diabetes and have insurance, you may qualify to get free delivery of your supplies. Call now. We can help.
Call 1-800-972-0451. 1-800-972-0451. That's 1-800-972-0451. Call now.
President Biden has ended the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy that has separated families at the border, and they did so, in their words, as a deterrent. But so far, according to the Homeland Security Department, the Biden folks still have not been able to reunite any of those families. And a new court filing shows that more than 400 parents still have not even been located. Now, those are numbers. Now, what we'd like to do is to put a human face on this. It's not about politics. It's not about red or blue. It's about suffering and, frankly, desperation. You can see both of those things from this 10-year-old boy from Nicaragua who was found wandering alone near the border.
¿Ah? ¿Me puede ayudar? ¿Qué pasó? Es que me dejaron botado. ¿Te dejaron solo botado? ¿Vienes con tu mamá o tu papá? Nadie. Yo venía en un grupo que venía de entrega con usted y al final me dejaron botado y venía aquí a pedir auxilio. Y tal vez me pueden robar, secuestrar o algo. ¿Te pueden robar?
He was brought to this facility in Donna, Texas. That's reportedly so overcrowded right now the kids have to sleep in shifts there as there's not enough room for all of them to lie down at a single time. Cecilia Vega from ABC News, she visited the border and she spoke with young children who have just crossed into the U.S. alone, looking for family members there in the States.
On patrol with deputies from Hidalgo County, Texas, we spot a group of families who just crossed the Rio Grande.
¿Sabes quiénes? Cuatro. ¿De dónde vienes?
Just up the road, an even bigger group. In it, 9-year-old Justin and 10-year-old Joseph, both traveling alone, walking for more than a month. The group has taken them in, strangers promising to keep them safe. The boys show me phone numbers of family members in the U.S. they soon hope to find. Justin takes off his backpack to show me this hat.
Este es el número de tu abuelo, ¿verdad? This is his grandfather's phone number.
Joseph's aunt's number written right here.
This is his aunt's phone number.
Immigration is complicated. No one in their right mind thinks that we can or should have open borders. It is an unsustainable and it's an unsafe policy for both national prosperity as well as national security. But when I hear the vitriol and the ugliness directed at young children for the crime of hope, I wonder what's happened to the soul of a country I love. Now, let's set aside the hypocrisy of those voices who act like their forefathers all came to the States on the Mayflower. And let's try, for 1 minute, just try to consider why they're coming. Why would a parent send their young child on a trek, often thousands of miles, without loved ones, surrounded by danger and dangerous people? Why would they send a child to a country where he or she often can't speak the language, doesn't know the culture, and will be welcomed by a reception that will be anything but open arms? Why would a parent spend their life savings to put this child on a journey that carries the possibility that they may never see their loved one again? Could the answer maybe be, just maybe, that like any parent that watched that kid crying, you feel for the kid, that maybe those parents love their kid? Think about, because I have. What would you do if that was your kid? What would you do if your child was faced with the future of poverty, violence, and gangs? What would you do if you couldn't offer your 9-year-old an education or a future? Now, I've been to both sides of the border not long ago, and the sense of fear in these kids' eyes is palpable. They're all running from things that no child should have ever seen, and they're in an uncertain limbo that breaks your heart. Now, I don't sit here and pretend to have all the answers or all the policy prescriptions, but I know this. These children are not the enemy. They are the victims. And if the ugly voices in this country now speak for an entire political party, then we got bigger worries than scared kids wanting a piece of the American dream. When we come back, as a growing number of people now identify as Democrats, not Republicans, we're going to show you how and when the GOP first took a trip to Crazy Town and how there is a through line from then to today. We'll be right back.
Villains, robbers, bandits, crooks, they're all over your TV screen. But the biggest thieves are behind your screen. I'm talking about the cable companies. They charge monthly subscriptions, fees, rentals, and force you to take long-term contracts. Well, it's time to say goodbye to the cable guy, because now you can watch 4K Ultra HD broadcast TV for free. Introducing Clear TV's new 4K Ultra HD design, the Premium HD. Just plug it into your TV and start watching for free. You will instantly receive top-rated network shows, local news and weather, sporting events, and even Ultra HD 4K broadcast shows, all for free. Thanks to federal government mandate, all broadcasters are required to transmit a digital TV signal through the airwaves. The new Premium Clear TV lets you bypass cable or satellite to bring network and 4K broadcast shows directly to your television. Retract the antenna to keep it small or extend them for maximum reception.
Setup was so easy. I took my Clear TV antenna, plugged it into the back of the TV, and now I can watch my favorite broadcast channels anywhere in the house for free.
We're just off the coast here in the Gulf of Mexico receiving free network broadcast HD TV. Imagine all the free shows you'll receive at home. Basic cable and satellite services can cost you up to $80 a month. That's $960 a year and almost $10,000 over a 10-year period. Watch TV in as many rooms as you like with no additional monthly fees. Stop spending money you don't have to spend. Call or go online now and get your premium Clear TV 4K Ultra HD antenna for only $19.95. It's backed by our 60-day money-back guarantee. Order now and you can add a second Clear TV free. Just pay separate processing and handling. That's a $40 value for only $19.95.
I can't believe I get all these channels for free. Plus 4K Ultra HD, Clear TV is for real.
This is important news for people who took certain drugs for HIV and then suffered serious injury to their kidneys or bones. If you or a loved one took Truvada, Variad, Atroplus, Stribild, or Complera and were then diagnosed with kidney disease, kidney failure, bone fractures, bone density loss, or softening of the bones, call Davis & Crump right now to see if you're eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Our first consultation is free and we don't get paid unless you get paid. Call Davis & Crump right now. Operators are standing.
You know, there's an old saying that politics is perception. That means bad optics often lead to, yes, bad outcomes. And the Republican Party has had some really terrible optics lately. From a president who refused to respect the results of an election he lost, more obvious and repeated lies said in the aftermath, to the president leading his supporters to a deadly insurgent attack on the seat of our nation's government, to the new laws in state after state looking to block people from voting, to the people sent to that very seat of power. Not a lot of recent moments Republicans can point to with pride, and that's now showing up in some really worrisome numbers, at least for the grand old party. But it is the logical endpoint for the path the party has been on for a few years now. And for more, I want to bring in senior political correspondent Andrew Whitman. And this is not just some snapshot poll. This is a trend line that's been building for a while, and the math doesn't look good.
Nor should the trend really be a surprise to anybody, Rich. Let's begin with those worrisome numbers for the GOP. For years, Gallup has been asking American voters which party they more closely identify with and what party they consider themselves to be members of. In their most recent poll, Gallup found 49% of Americans identify themselves as Democrats or Democratic-leaning, and only 40% identify as Republicans. That 9-point advantage for Democrats is the largest for Democrats since the heart of the 2012 campaign between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney, and the only larger advantage for Democrats came at the end of the Bush administration amid frustration with the Iraq War, and of course the nation's slide into the Great Recession of 2008 and 2009. There's even more bad news for the GOP in the poll when voters were asked which party they actually belong to. 44% labeled themselves independents. That's a historically large number. 30% said Democrats. That's on the low side. But the 25% who identified as Republican is the second lowest total that Gallup has ever recorded. The only time it was lower was after Republicans forced the government to shut down in 2013, thanks in large part to Ted Cruz. And that speaks to the common links between those moments and today. All followed highly criticized actions or policies, and almost all had distinct individual Republicans cast in the role of the bad guy. Bush for Iraq and the recession, Cruz for the shutdown, and of course Donald Trump for the entirety of his presidency, plus his big election lie and the resulting Capitol riot insurrection. And while many of us saw this GOP decline coming, and we said it at the time, if you had been watching this program, no one had a better seat to that slide than former Republican House Speaker John Boehner, who in his new book tracks the decline of his party to its freakout after the election of Barack Obama and the Tea Party wave that followed it to Congress. Boehner on that freshman class a decade ago, writing that they didn't want to get anything done in Washington. Quote, a lot of them wanted to blow up Washington. That's why they thought they were elected, he wrote. That many in that class were, quote, just thinking of how to fundraise off outrage or how they could get on Hannity that night. They didn't really want legislative victories. They wanted wedge issues and conspiracies and crusades. And calling his Republican majority Crazy Town, Boehner notes, under the new rules of Crazy Town, I may have been Speaker, but I didn't hold all the power. In the book, Boehner draws a straight line from the 2010 midterms to the Trump era. The decline that started in 2010 came home to roost in 2016. Now, Boehner was already out of Washington by the time Trump raised his hand and swore the oath, and he writes he was happy to be gone. Quote, that was fine by me, Boehner writes, because I'm not sure I belong to the Republican Party he created. And I don't even think I could get elected in today's Republican Party anyway. I don't think Ronald Reagan could either. And much like the Trump Tea Party, or much like the Tea Party led to Trump himself, Trump led to the Capitol riot, as Boehner writes. It was a low point for our country that left him on the verge of tears, and he adds, Trump incited that bloody insurrection for nothing more than selfish reasons perpetrated by the BS he'd been shoveling since he lost a fair election the previous November. He claimed voter fraud without any evidence, and he concludes the legislative terrorism that I'd witnessed as Speaker had now encouraged actual terrorism. Quite an image the former Speaker paints of his own party today. The Republican Party of today. Now take that image and keep it in your mind as you consider what West Virginia's Joe Manchin said yesterday as he rejected calls to eliminate or tweak the filibuster. Manchin insists that bipartisan cooperation in the Senate can prevail, but you have to wonder, if the party sitting across from Manchin is the Republican Party that John Boehner was describing, is that cooperation even possible? Rich began the segment with an old saying. I'll end it with another. You can't have a handshake with only one hand. Rich?
You know, it struck me that Boehner, we've seen some other Republicans of recent vintage who've left Washington say they don't recognize their party. Chris Shays, a friend to both you and I, who's been a guest many times over the years, says, you know, he doesn't recognize the party that he represented for many years in Congress for his Connecticut district. But Andrew, it's worse than that, in that they've been given opportunities in the last 4+ years, even going back to when the Tea Party came in, the Freedom Congress, all this craziness. Sure. Whether it was Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, as we'll talk about, or that we said earlier in this hour, and Trump, after everything went south, after post the election when he lost fair and square by 6 million votes, for crying out loud, and then the riots where no one wanted to be within his area code. Every time they're handed on a silver platter a chance to excise and lance that, tumor that is this hateful sector of the party, they can't do it. And they justify to themselves, and I saw this even in a Mike Pence editorial about, well, you know what, I'll, try to somehow put my hand on the collar of the tiger, but I need, the followers of it to
got to get elected if I'm going to be able to make change. Sure.
And it's a false choice because the numbers you showed, how many people, the majority, the biggest number are people who are that are undecided or that are independent.
That's right.
There's a portion of them that are not committed to the Democratic Party that could, if they're Reagan Democrats or they're Republicans of a more recent vintage, could come back to the party. They have a choice, is my point here. Republicans could say, listen, we'll never be Biden or Obama Democrats, but we're not this anymore either. And sure, you're going to get some pushback, but at the end, they're going to come back to you. I don't understand the cowardice, not just because of the damage to the country, Andrew, but the political calculation. Their math is wrong.
Well, two responses to that. One is we have a list of the polling numbers on some of the issues that Joe Biden has been pushing for, and they're all majority support for them.
Let's look at them. I mean, the numbers, right.
Yeah, you can see the lowest number is 55% for universal health care. The highest number is 95% for criminal justice reform. So the party is out of step on the issues, and as long as they're taking a position that is so contrary to where the American public is on these key issues, that's going to continue to be a problem for them. But in terms of nobody crying foul or nobody saying, stepping in and stopping this descent of the Republican Party, keep in mind John Boehner could have been in that position or was in that position also, and also failed to hit the brakes on this. And he's a pretty good example of why, because Boehner didn't want to get in front of the charging bull that was that Tea Party class because A, it would weaken his grip on power, B, it might undermine the party's attempts to gain power. So it was all this go along to get along, and you don't want to be the one who's responsible for causing the party to go under.
Well,
and he didn't want to lose his own power either. There's a selfishness to it too.
But he knew firsthand, and I know he talks about in his book, he had at one point a budget deal worked out. And then he found out that his own flank were cutting me at the knees. The own Freedom Caucus all of a sudden broke their word and went away from him. So I'll give him a break in that he tried at least, okay, to a degree. But you're right. It's easier to say when you're outside.
Until it was going to blow back on him, at which point he stopped trying. And I think we've seen that. I mean, I think back to the two impeachment votes that we had in the Senate. And guys like Lamar Alexander, who's now out of the Senate, generally considered a good institutionalist in the Senate, was thought maybe to be a poachable vote, voted to acquit every single time. Again, didn't want to get in the way of the party.
But what I'm saying to them is, and it's easy because I'm not running for re-election like these guys have to, but they're not reading the room. This way can't work for them. It's a declining base. It's an aging base. And you will never win a national election if you make it this narrowcast. And I think, Andrew, that there's an opportunity without as much downside as they think. And I know they're worried about primaries, but I'm saying take morality out of it, which you should never do. But in this case, the raw number says, I think they're wrong. But I wanted to hit, before we ran out, the Manchin point, Andrew. I believe the way the Biden administration has reacted to what he said about being against, throwing the filibuster out, them still moving ahead on infrastructure or trying to, that he hasn't shut the door completely. I think if there's an optics of Biden really doing an outreach and finding no hand, to use your analogy, to greet him, he might reconsider, and they might come back to only needing 50 votes.
And he's given indications in the past couple of months that might be possible, particularly on things like voting rights and voting access. And there may be some other possibilities. So I think that door does remain open to a certain degree. Manchin's clearly trying to paint the image for the folks back home. Look, I did everything possible that I could, and then I fought for these gains anyway. It'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. But the one thing you will not see is the rhetoric ramping up either from Manchin or Biden. They both want to play nice with each other.
Yeah, they certainly need one another, or certainly Biden needs him. Andrew, thank you. When we come back, never forget that message more important now than ever. After the break, we're going to show you how little that young people in America know about the Holocaust. You won't believe the poll numbers. We'll also hear from survivors who say this all started with words, and they're concerned it could happen again.
Guys, got hair loss? I know what you're thinking. Should I shave my head? Comb it over? Wear a hat? Just stop. This isn't 1970. Keep your hair and your confidence, because Bosley, America's #1 hair restoration expert, can give you your real hair back permanently. Check them out today because they're giving away an absolutely free information kit and a free gift card to everyone who texts SHINE to 234-234. Dude, you don't have to look like your dad because this isn't your dad's hair loss treatment. People all over the country trust Bosley because they're ahead of the curve. They use the latest technology to give you your real hair back. And the best part, Bosley's permanent solution is protected by the Bosley Guarantee. Let them show you for free how awesome your hair could look with an absolutely free information kit and a gift card for $250 off. Text SHINE to 234-234. Ask about the Bosley Guarantee. That's SHINE to 234-234.
Clean up your lawn and garden the smart way with a DR Chipper Shredder. Drop lighter materials into the shredder and the DR will pulverize it into a fine mulch you can use to enrich your soil. Reduce leaves, garden cuttings, sticks and twigs, even big branches, to a fraction of their original volume. The chipper cuts branches up to 5 inches thick into attractive wood chips that are great for landscaping. A DR Chipper Shredder is a complete yard and garden tool that turns your trash into treasure and leaves your property looking great. There's a full line of DR chippers and chipper shredders, including towable and 3-point hitch models.
Go online to drchipper.com to request your free product catalog. All DR Chipper models are on sale and free shipping is in effect. Plus, with our easy financing plan, you can get your DR now and make low monthly payments. Hurry, this offer won't last, so go online today. That's drchipper.com.
Need life insurance? SelectQuote found Jacob, 40, a $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. And SelectQuote found his wife, Wendy, a $500,000 policy for only $17 a month.
Our secret? At SelectQuote, we aggressively comparison shop up to 10 highly rated companies to find you the company with the best rates. Why pay more? Give your family the security they need at a price you can afford. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Crematoria, gas chambers in Auschwitz and elsewhere did not begin with bricks. They began with words, evil words, hateful words, anti-Semitic words, words of prejudice. And they were permitted to proceed to violence because of the absence of words.
Diabolic plan to annihilate the Jews in Europe was established in small increments way before the establishment of the concentration camps, the ghettos, the death camps, and the mobile killing units. It started with words.
It didn't start with bullets and tanks, as you heard. It began with words. Those are survivors discussing the origins of the Holocaust. A group called the Claims Conference. They're interviewing survivors and starting a new campaign to educate people about what happened, and it's also helping to secure compensation from the German government for people who had their money and property looted by the Third Reich. And education, turns out, is desperately needed, especially here in the States. New survey of people under 40, it shows that nearly 2/3 don't know that 6 million Jews were killed. Nearly 4 in 10 thought that fewer than 2 million perished. And nearly half couldn't name a single concentration camp. This comes as we are still seeing an alarming rate of anti-Semitism in the U.S. The FBI says 60% of religion-based hate crimes, they are directed at Jews. And the Anti-Defamation League says more than 6 in 10 American Jews say they've personally seen or experienced anti-Semitism in the past 5 years. I want to bring in my guest to discuss, Greg Schneider. He's Executive Vice President of the Claims Conference. Greg, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You know, a lot of numbers surprised me. Earlier this week, I spoke with a group that's working to vaccinate Holocaust survivors, and I learned some numbers that shocked me in terms of the remaining global population of Holocaust survivors. Roughly 1/3 of a million people is the total number. How concerned are you, as that generation fades, the reality that they bore witness to is going to also skip people's minds?
We're very concerned. More importantly, the survivors themselves are concerned. And that's why this media campaign, the social media campaign that we've launched, hashtag It Started With Words, It's driven by survivors. It's short videos of Holocaust survivors themselves talking about the origins of their personal Holocaust horrors, how the anti-Semitism began against them, each one of them talking about their own stories.
We mentioned the numbers about the ignorance in this country about the reality of it. There were other numbers too, where I think it was 11% that you found said that Jews were to blame for the Holocaust. Is the problem that people aren't taught the historical realities, or that, especially in this digital age, they're fed misinformation? Which is it, lack of information or the wrong one?
Yes. The answer to your question is yes. Unfortunately, it's both. I think people don't have enough information, and unfortunately, the wrong information. One of the questions we asked in the survey was, had you seen Holocaust denial or distortion on the internet? And more than half of the respondents said yes. Look, 56% of millennials and Gen Z, people under 35, couldn't identify Auschwitz. Auschwitz, the concentration camp, the factory of death that is probably the place most synonymous with evil on the planet. And to know what Auschwitz is means we haven't learned the lessons of Auschwitz. Ultimately, what Holocaust survivors are saying in this social media campaign is it's important to know the story. It's important to understand about the Holocaust. But the lessons that come from the Holocaust, that's crucial to our society. And the reason that we are talking about it started with words is people don't wake up one day and say, hey, I want to be part of mass murder. I want to be a murderer. I want to participate in genocide. But it happens slowly over time. It evolves. It starts with hate. It starts with words that lead to hate, that leads to deeds, that leads to murder, that leads to genocide, etc. And so the survivors are saying the words that we use, the way we speak about other human beings has an impact. And if we don't learn the lessons coming out of the Holocaust, when are we ever going to learn those lessons?
We're also getting a real-time history lesson with what's going on for Asian Americans in this country. And I'm curious if you see parallels in the past year since COVID became obviously a daily story that we've all had to live through, that community being targeted in some of the same kind of ugly reminders of what happened a couple of generations ago, and obviously, as you've been pointing out, still hasn't disappeared.
So the similarities are eerie and are scary. Ultimately, we don't like to make comparisons. The Holocaust is unique. The experience is unique and singular in what happened to the Jewish people because of the scope and the breadth, that it was tens of millions of people that were complicit, the industrial, technological implementation of murder, the fact that it was many, many countries across an entire continent, that 6 million Jews were murdered. It is unique. But at the same time, the lessons that emerge are universal. The things that we're talking about, how hate can ultimately lead to that sort of murder. And so it's important, whatever generation we're in, that we understand that lesson. So right now, this year, we're seeing, or in the past few months, certainly, we're seeing this crazy, unacceptable rise of violence against Asian Americans. And for sure, there is, as you pointed out, more racism and attacks on Jews than any other minority. But people who hate one group because of who they are, what they look like, who their grandparents were, where they came from, if you hate, then you can hate other people. And it's very easy. So it's really important that the lessons we understand are universal and that they shape really the critical thinking in our understanding and context of the Holocaust.
So in terms of how to combat this, obviously your organization and the campaign is trying to do that, but I think of what's happened in Germany, where they've criminalized anti-Semitism, even in word, not just deed. My question is, in some of the inflammatory rhetoric, even that you'll hear out of Washington, let alone what's deemed permissible on social media, where else should accountability or the buck stop in terms of promoting this? I mean, for example, we remember on January 6th, that monster walking around with a Camp Auschwitz sweatshirt that was, and he did so seemingly without any fear that he could walk through the Capitol that way. My point is, more than just educating people about what not to do? Should there be consequences when they do?
So I think that's for society to decide. I'm not sure that that is my place to opine on that. I think in the United States, we have a tradition of embracing and a love for freedom of speech and freedom of expression, and nobody wants to have an assault on that. But education can give context, can give meaning to some of the things that perhaps escape people. But teaching the Holocaust is complicated. Teaching about genocide in the darkest times of the 20th century and, you know, darkest places of humanity. And so what we're really talking about is investing more in teacher training and giving them the tools, the resources, the time to explore how to teach it properly and how to work with younger people. Mastering some of the details of what really happened, but also, or importantly, understanding the context and how it evolved so that you come to critical thinking, so that people really begin to question their place in society. What is their role, right? So there were people who were murderers, who took a gun and shot other people and who committed horrible atrocities. But there were lots and lots of millions more people who were bystanders. So there's this concept of turning into an upstander, standing up and saying, I won't allow that to happen. This is unacceptable. That is, I think, what is most important to Holocaust survivors. You know, the people who made these videos, they're in their 80s and mostly in their 90s. And to do these videos, they have to relive the darkest chapters of their lives, their personal horror stories. But they feel committed to doing it because they want a legacy that at least society, the world should learn from what they had to endure. So they've done the hard part in sharing. It's now our obligation to listen and to learn.
Greg Schneider, I really appreciate the time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more on RFL.
Remember when taking a hot bath was the best part of your day? And for some, it can be hard and even not safe just getting in. Older bathtubs can be as high as 20 inches. Let's face the facts. As we get older, our knees and backs start to hurt us. Getting in and out of an old bathtub can be difficult and even dangerous. Jacuzzi Bath Remodel, a name you know and trust, has the perfect solution for you. We call it the tub to shower conversion. We'll remove your old bathtub and the need to step over a dangerously high threshold, replacing it with the safety and luxury of a low-profile walk-in shower. Advanced materials mean no more mold or mildew from an old bathroom, and all this in about a day. As a special bonus to you, you'll get a special extra safety feature for free. So please call now.
This is important news for people who have taken Zantac or its generic ranitidine and then suffered from cancer. Zantac and generic ranitidine have been linked to cancers. Zantac and ranitidine contain NDMA, a known cancer-causing agent. If you or a loved one took Zantac or generic ranitidine and were then diagnosed with bladder cancer, kidney cancer, or any of these cancers, call Davis & Crump right now to see if you're eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Operators are standing by.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Well, that is going to do it for us tonight and for this week on RFL. Thank you, as always, for joining us. Have a terrific weekend. We'll see you back here Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Till then.
shake your legs, shake your abs, shake your butt, shake up your entire body to a slim, firm, and sexy new you with PowerFit Elite, the breakthrough multi-directional vibration platform that helps engage all your muscles from the moment you step on it. PowerFit uses multi-directional vibration to create muscle confusion and rapidly contract and relax your muscles to help